Hi there everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to return to subroutines and extend the video that I did a few weeks ago by looking at how to add your own custom parameters to subroutines. Now I realize that this is a bit of a niche video, not quite sure how many people will need to be able to do this, but if you do, I've got you covered. We'll cover all of the different aspects of adding custom parameters to your subroutines in this video. Now if you've no idea what it is that I'm talking about, feel free to go back and have a look at the first part of this video. Place the link just up at the top right hand corner that takes you back to the previous video that I did on subroutines, the part 1 video. That video goes through what a subroutine is, why you might want to use them and how to put them in your own experiences. And in this video we're going to go through just extending that and adding custom parameters. Before we move on, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed already, please do consider clicking the subscribe button. I have now smashed my way through 1,000 subscribers, and guess what? I've got my eyes on 2,000 subscribers next. Hopefully that will come at some point this year. And as always, if you get anything out of this video, please do just click the like button. Really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Right, let's crack on with the video and have a look at custom parameters in subroutines. So here we are back in the logic editor, and before I begin, just a couple of points to make. If you have not been back and had a look at the first part of this subroutines video, I urge you to do so, especially if at any point during this video you get lost. I won't be covering any of the basics in this video, they are all covered in part 1. The second point to make is I won't be making a complete experience in this video. I'll just be showing you small sections of an experience that I created especially for this video. If you want to go and check out that full experience, you can do. I've put the playground ID in the description below, and it's just a basic air superiority mode where players are selected at random to be elite pilots. They have an extra amount of health and they are given extra points when you kill them. You'll see some sections of that as we work through this video, but obviously you're not going to get the complete experience from this video. This is just to show you how to use the custom parameters. So let's get started, and you will see a single rule on the screen at the moment, and this is a standard way of doing things. We've placed a bunch of actions inside this rule that sets up all the initial conditions for when the game mode starts. So it doesn't really matter what these values are because it depends on what the particular experience you are creating is, but you can see that during the process of initializing this game mode, we have set a bunch of variables to different values, and in order for this setup to work, we need those values to be set right at the very beginning. Now the thing is, if we want to shift this to a separate subroutine, then all of these values are going to need to be passed to that subroutine in order for the subroutine to do the same job as this rule does. So that's what we're going to do first. We are going to create a subroutine that will initialize all of the game mode settings, and I'll talk about why that might be useful when you've created your experience as I go along. So first of all, I'm just going to move this mod to one side. Now the reason why I've done that is so that I can still see the values just down here when I set up the subroutine, and we'll go to subroutine, create subroutine, and we will call this initialize, helps if I spell it correctly, game mode settings. And you can also see just underneath we've got this option to add a parameter. So remembering back to the first part of this video, you will know that a parameter is a value that gets passed to a subroutine. We need all of these values that we've got in our main rule past this subroutine for it to work. So let's do that. Let's start at the top. We can see we've got score to win, so let's do that. Add parameter, score to win, and we will change that. That is a number. Now you can see down here we have a lot of parameter types. Clearly we're not going to go through all of these. We're just going to go through a very small section. Most of those you probably don't need very often or at all, but they're there if you need them. So let's now add another parameter. Let's have here game mode time. That was another one. It's a bit hidden just here, so we're going to just put that in as a number. Let's add another parameter. It looks like most of these, if not all, are going to be numbers. So we'll add another parameter. This one was game mode target score. Now I'm going to do another video on target scores because this one's a bit weird. Game mode target score, and we will set that to a number. It is a bit weird, is that one. We'll go through that in another video. Now we're going to set up these parameters for health. So we'll add some more. Elite pilots health, and at this point I'm just going to skip ahead on the video and you'll be able to see this once it's completed. Right, okay, there you go. So here we are, and now I've added all of those parameters to this subroutine. You can see that they are all numbers. They could have been any type, but as it happens for this one we just need numbers. Once we're done, we're going to click the create button to generate that subroutine, and there you go. You can see we have the subroutine just here, ready to get those values added. I'm just going to move it over to that side so we can see what is going on. So now we have a subroutine all set up and ready to go, and we also have this rule set up with all of the commands or actions that we need to happen when the game mode starts. So let's get all this set up. The first thing that we're going to do is move all of these actions into this subroutine. Now, in fairness, we could make this work without any of the parameters at all. We could have just called this subroutine without the parameters, run it as it is. That would work perfectly fine. And as I said, this is all about choice and what you are looking to achieve. This is one example. We will look at another example which is a little more practical in a moment, and the reason why we might want to do that. But in this case, maybe we want to make this a little bit more readable for players or people that come across experiences later on, or make it a little bit easier for us to debug later on, so that rather than looking through a big load of commands just here, we are perhaps just setting a few values in a subroutine here. Let's have a look at how that might work. So we've moved all the actions across into the subroutine, and we're going to replace each one of these values with one of the parameters from our subroutine. So let's have a look what we've got. We're just going to go down here to subroutines on the left hand side, and you can see there is a new block just underneath. Well, I say new, it's been around a little while. Just underneath the subroutine section it says get subroutine argument. So we're going to just grab that, we're going to move away that block, and we are going to replace it with the get subroutine argument block. And you can see it says no parameters just there. When we look underneath the list, we can see all of the parameters that we created earlier. If we want to set the global variable score to win, that is going to get passed to this subroutine through that parameter. Let's do the same. So we've got set game mode time limit. Let's get the get subroutine argument. And which parameter was that getting passed through? Well, it was get game mode time. Let's just duplicate that to make life a little bit easier. We'll do one more. Let's go with set game mode target score, just there, game mode target score. Now, again, I'm just going to fast forward. I'm going to replace all of these with the subroutine arguments, and then we can move on quickly. Right, okay, there you go, and you can see that we have now replaced all of these values with a subroutine argument instead. So now, when we call this subroutine, by placing its name in this rule, we are going to have to give values for each one of these things that will then get passed to this subroutine. Let's have a look at that, and hopefully this will all come together. But you can see we've placed all of these blocks now in the variables, and they are going to get the values from this subroutine when it's called. So let's do that. So let's get the initialize game mode settings subroutine, and as we drag it over, you will see that we now have a really long block with lots of spaces in it, and we're going to just drop it there. This is your normal subroutine block. Let's just move over a little bit, but now it has places to put all of the values that we want to pass as parameters to the subroutine. So let's put some values in there. Now we're going to put the score to win to be maybe 300 as we had it before. We'll set the game mode time to be 600. Let's duplicate that. We've got more value. Game mode target score. Now I said this was a little bit weird. I'm going to set it to 0. In another video we'll explain all about game mode target scores. and what happens when you use vehicle superiority, because I messed up my earlier video about that one. Then we've got elite pilot's health, so let's set that to 150 as it was before, and we can just keep going along and doing this. We're going to pass all these values. Elite points value, I'll skip again and we'll just finish off the last couple. So there we go, I've skipped ahead and I have now filled in all of the parameters in this subroutine. I'm just going to make this a little bit easier to see by showing these inputs vertically, so you can see that that's what the subroutine looks like now. It's just the same as it was before, but instead of going across the screen, we can now see all of those values vertically. So you can see that we have plugged these values into this subroutine here, and these values will now get passed to the subroutine through its argument. So the score to win parameter is now 300, and when we use get subroutine argument score to win, that value is going to get pulled over and set as the value there. And you can see all of those values now get passed over. Now you might be asking yourself, why do we want to do this? Well, we could have done it the other way. We could have just left all of the values in there without using get subroutine arguments. Would have worked perfectly fine. We didn't even need to use a subroutine. And as I've said, this is all about choice. But for me, one of the biggest benefits to this is if I want to go back and make some changes to the mode itself, so change some of the settings or values, or if I want to pass this to someone else as an experience and allow them to make changes. Because if I need to explain to someone where a change needs to be made, so for example, they want to alter the game mode target score or the time, or how many enemy players there are, what somebody's health is, that's quite difficult when you've got a big block of code like this, because I have to explain where in that block of code it needs to be changed. Don't need to do that now. If I want to go back and make changes to this game mode now, all I need to do is say, well, if you want to alter the score to win, just go into the initialize game mode rule block and change the value under the score to win parameter. It's a much easier block of code to follow. Now, as I say, programmers use subroutines all the time. This is commonplace for organizing your code more effectively. We're not really programming in Portal, although we're using a lot of the same techniques. How you solve this as a problem is entirely up to you, but we've now taken a good look at setting up custom parameters and the reason why we might want to do that. Now, if you're still with me, and I suspect that that is only a handful of people given the niche appeal of this particular video, I'm just going to show you one final example of where you might want to use subroutines with custom parameters. Now, it's just impossible to go through every possible scenario, but if we take a look at some things that appear in Portal, they don't get passed as event payloads. They involve a lot of work to set them up, and you might want to use them over and over again. And a classic example of where this might be the case is the use of icons. Now, in order to use an icon in Portal, there are a number of different settings that need to be set for it. You need to set the icon image, you need to set icon text, its position in the game world. You also need to enable or disable them and set the team that owns it. Now, all of those things can be done in a block, but if we are using icons and using them regularly, then that might be a case where we can simplify our code through the use of custom parameters. So I'm just going to give you an example of that, and we're going to start off just by writing the subroutine itself first. So this subroutine that we're going to write is going to take as the set of custom parameters an icon itself, so which icon we're dealing with, and then it's going to set all of the values for that icon using the custom parameters. Now, that might not make sense at the moment, but it will do hopefully in a moment. I'm just going to move all of this code out of the way. Let's move that up a little bit further. That's as far as I can go. So let's go down to subroutines and let's create another subroutine, and we're going to call this, let's put this as change game icon. Now, in order to set up a game icon, as we've mentioned before, there's quite a few settings that we need. So let's add a parameter. Let's get the icon to change. That's which one of the 5 icons we want to change. And if we scroll down the list of parameters, you'll find right down at the bottom we've got world icons item. Let's add another parameter, icon image, Oh, we put a T in there by accident. There we go, get rid of that. And then if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you found world icon images item. Let's add another parameter. Let's have icon text. The text in an icon is passed as a message, and I think custom message, no, that's not what we're after. Let's see if we can find the message item. There we are, message. We could pass it as text if we wanted to. Let's add another parameter. What else do we need? Icon owner. Let's find team ID. There we go. What else do we have? Add parameter. What else did we need? We needed the icon position. Icon position. Just like that. That's a vector, so we need a vector for that. So you can see we're using quite a few of the different parameter types. I think that mostly covers it. We could enable or disable the icon through this as well if we wanted to. I'm not going to do that here, but you could do if you wanted to. So all of these 5 items are needed in order to set up a game icon. Let's have a look at how we might use that in our game mode. So I'm just going to create that particular subroutine. It's just up there. Let's just move that down a little bit. So we're going to build the bulk of this subroutine now. So let's grab all of the blocks that we need in order to set up a icon or to change an icon. We find all of that information under the user interface. We'll not get the enable ones, we'll do that separately, but let's get set world icon image, icon owner, position, and what else have we got? And text. So there you go, those are the 4 things we need for the icon. So we've got set world icon image. Well, which icon do we want to change the image for, and what image do we want to change it to? Well, we can now get those from our custom parameters. So let's drop in that and that. Now I'm going to fill all these in a moment, fast forward again as we have done so far, but set the world icon image. The first part of this block is the icon we want to change. We're going to pass that as a parameter, and we want to change that image to the image that gets passed to this subroutine. So we can do the same again, set the world icon owner of the icon that we want to change and change it to the team ID that gets sent. There we go, we've got icon owner that gets sent as a parameter. Right, let's fill in the last 2 of these and you'll see how that works. So you can see we've finished setting that up, and now we have these 4 actions. We want to set the icon that we've been passed to change to these particular values. So let's use that in a rule. I'm just going to have to move over a little bit. So to speed things along a little bit, I've created a rule that we're going to use to make use of this subroutine. And in the game, basically what's going to happen is that we have players in the air in planes, and if they are identified by a variable as being an elite player, they are going to get tracked by an icon in the sky. And I'll just show a little bit of a video from the little experience that I made so you can see what I mean by that. So you can see that the elite player is getting tracked by an icon. So you can see all we're going to do is we set a condition that says if the event player is an elite player while they are still an event player, and then we've got a little bit of an if statement in there that runs this bit if they are on team 1 and this bit if they're on team 2, waits a fraction of a second and then runs it again. And within this, we are going to call this icon to change subroutine and update the icon every time this loops. Hopefully you're following me, but we'll do that now and you can just get some idea of what it is that I'm talking about. So we're going to drag this change game icon subroutine that we set up earlier. Hopefully that fits on there, but we're just going to set those inputs to be vertical again so that we can see that a little bit more clearly. So you can see if the event player is on team 1, and then we've got all of these things that we can change for the icon. So let's pass those values. We want the icon that we are going to change, so let's set that to icon 1. Then we want an image for that icon. Well, we could choose whatever we wanted. For this one, I am going to choose, let's have a filled ping, why not? Then we need some text, and this is going to be a message. So we need the user interface message. So this is what's going to appear on that icon. Let's have elite. That will do, won't it? And then let's set the icon owner to be the team ID of the event player. And then let's set the position of the icon to be the current position of the player. So we just need to get the player state there of the event player. This is all a little bit complicated, I'm afraid, but in order to make use of it, that's disappeared behind. We do need to be a little bit more complicated, unfortunately. But we need to get the player state, vector, and their position. And that's it. So now we can run this subroutine and we can set up the icon continuously. Now I have to say, this probably doesn't really show the power of this to its maximum, I don't suppose, but it does give you an example. So now every time this loops, we can set up the icon. Now in fairness, in order for this to work, we don't necessarily need to have all of this. We could just do it in the one subroutine. I've overcomplicated this as an example now that I've come to have a look at it, but it does at least work and give you an example of how this might work practically. I'm going to duplicate that and pop it just down there so we can call this subroutine again. Let's have it with world icon 2. Let's change the image to an armed bomb. But we've got the same principle there, so player 2 will get an icon that tracks them. We probably would want to enable the icon before this, but like I say, this video has been going on for quite some time and I just wanted to get an example out there of how this might, in the long run, simplify some of these things. But ultimately, the use of subroutines is really just a matter of choice. For you as the experience creator, the game mode designer, this is really at the extreme end of difficulty in terms of setting up game modes and understanding where things are. I don't expect the vast majority of people to go through this whole process, but if you've got to the end of this video, first of all, thank you. I really do need the watch minutes on my YouTube channel. I hope you've understood what we've done so far. Please do feel free to ask any questions that you want in the comments below. I'll be keeping an eye on them and I will do my best within the limits of the YouTube comments section to answer any questions that you've got. And ultimately, if you really want to just have a look at how this works in practice, please feel free, go ahead in the description below, follow that URL to the experience, the little one that I created that uses this in a way that's a little bit more practical. Right, I'm going to draw this video to an end there. I think I've done enough. Once again, thank you very, very much for watching my videos and subscribing if you haven't done already. If you got this far, do click the like button. I suspect that that will be one person out of 1,000 that will get this far, but hey, let me know in the comments if you got to the end. Let me know in the comments if you found this useful, and until next time, take care everyone. I think this is done. See you later. Ta-ra.